Hello, my dear friends from the Hidden Secrets channel. My name is Mary, and today, I'm going to share with you the shocking story of how I began an affair with my husband's son. To help you understand how it all unfolded, let me take you back to where it started. Make sure to subscribe and stick around until the very end because you won't want to miss a single detail. It all began on a chilly autumn day when I drove down that winding road leading to Newport. I felt as though I was heading toward a brand new chapter in my life, and perhaps, I truly was. The trees swayed gently in the wind, their leaves glowing in the most breathtaking shades of yellow and orange I had ever seen. Above, the sky was soft and gray, casting a calming blanket over the serene landscape. As I drove with my heart racing, I tried to absorb it all: the old wooden houses, the empty streets, and the fresh, damp scent of fall lingering in the air. After my divorce, I swore I would never get involved with anyone again. I mean, who needs a fresh start at 45, right? But then I met Tom. He was nothing like the man I had known before. At 50, with graying hair and a calm demeanor, he owned a small coffee shop in Newport. His simplicity and genuine smile, a rare kind of warmth, was something I didn't even realize I needed. He made me believe in second chances, and the idea of sharing a life with him seemed like the right move. When I pulled up to his house, now our house there, he stood at the door, wearing that signature welcoming smile. I got out of the car, trying to mask my nervousness with an eager grin. "Welcome home, Mary," he said, pulling me into a warm, reassuring hug. That hug was exactly what I needed. "Thank you, Tom," I replied, letting out a relieved laugh. I don't think I've ever been this ready for anything in my life. Living in Newport felt like the right choice, but deep down there was still a nervous flutter in my stomach. Everything was about to change. We grabbed my bags and stepped inside. The living room immediately drew me in. It was warm and inviting, filled with dark wood furniture, a fireplace adorned with family photos, and a rich, woody scent that seemed to be woven into the very air. This place wasn't just a house, it was a home. But then Tom's expression shifted slightly, a hint of unease creeping in. "Before you get settled, Mary, I need to tell you something," he began, rubbing the back of his neck nervously. "My son, Ben, is staying with me for a while. He just graduated and is looking for work around here before finding his own place." I hadn't expected that. I knew Tom had a son, but I had assumed he was already living on his own. Still, I put on my best reassuring smile. "Of course. It'll be nice to have some company," I said, trying to keep my tone light. "I'm curious to meet Ben." Tom's face brightened with relief. "Thanks for understanding. He's a great kid, kind of reserved, but with a big heart. I'm sure you two will get along just fine." As we made our way upstairs to my new room, I couldn't help but wonder what it would be like to share a home with a son. My room, overlooking the peaceful garden, was cozy and flooded with sunlight, a perfect space for someone starting over. As I began unpacking, I overheard muffled voices in the hallway. I peeked through the slightly open door and saw Tom talking to a young man who I immediately knew was Ben. He was even more attractive than I had imagined, 23 years old, dressed casually in a band t-shirt and sweatpants, with a laid-back, easygoing vibe. There was something about the way he carried himself, carefree yet confident, that made me wonder how this new life might unfold. He was still in the process of discovering his place in the world. As soon as Ben noticed me, Tom gestured for me to come closer. "Mary, this is Ben, my son. Ben, this is Mary." Ben studied me for a moment, a flicker of curiosity in his eyes before he offered a shy smile. "Hi, Mary, nice to meet you." "The pleasure's all mine," I replied, striving to sound relaxed. "I've heard so much about you." He managed a half-hearted smile, and I quickly realized that he truly was as reserved as Tom had mentioned. Our conversation was brief, lacking in the exchanged glances that might have eased the awkwardness. He appeared slightly uncomfortable, as if I were an unexpected guest in his home. I couldn't help but think about how complicated our living arrangement might turn out to be. The first few days at the house were an adventure. I started joining Tom at the coffee shop each morning, where he stood proudly behind the counter. I found myself admiring him as he greeted each customer by name, his attentiveness revealing just how much he cared about the community. Newport was a small town, and it seemed everyone knew Tom. In the afternoons, I ventured out to explore the city, always returning home to find Ben there, busy with something, or at least, he appeared to be. Often, I'd see him lounging on the sofa, his face illuminated by the glow of his cell phone, or lost in his own world with headphones on, immersed in music. Our exchanges were limited to a few casual words, but gradually I began to notice the subtleties in his demeanor. Ben observed things in a discreet yet perceptive manner, like the book I'd left on the table, the outfits I wore, or the way I organized the kitchen. It felt as if he were studying me, trying to understand who this woman was who had suddenly come to share his home. To my surprise, I found myself intrigued by him in ways I hadn't anticipated. There was something about his relaxed nature, his slightly carefree attitude, and the mystery that seemed to surround him. It was a curious mix, half innocence, half depth, that drew me in, as if I were piecing together a puzzle that reshaped my life. One afternoon, while returning from the market with groceries, I spotted Ben in the garden, deeply engrossed in a book. The sun hung low, casting a golden glow that kissed his face. As I approached, he looked up and smiled, closing the book. "Do you like reading?" I asked, trying to strike up a conversation. He glanced at the cover before responding thoughtfully, "Yes, I do. It helps me unwind a bit." He hesitated, then added, "And you? Do you enjoy reading?" "I do," I said with a smile. "Though I usually stick to lighter stuff, nothing too heavy." He chuckled softly, and I saw a hint of empathy in his eyes. Sometimes, that's exactly what you need, something light. For a brief moment, I stood there, not quite knowing how to respond. But that simple exchange felt like a breakthrough, a crack in the ice that separated us. Weeks rolled by, and I began to settle into my life in Newport. Tom was a kind, thoughtful man, and our daily routine was peaceful. Yet something unexpected was bubbling inside me, a growing curiosity and attraction for his son, Ben. I couldn't fully comprehend it, but it was undeniable. Ben possessed a unique perspective on life that fascinated me. One evening, Tom had to close the cafe late and asked me to have dinner with Ben. The thought of spending time alone with him made my heart race, and despite my attempts to reason it out, I couldn't shake my nerves. When I called for Ben to join me in the kitchen, he appeared quietly, his distracted gaze softening into a smile as he sat at the table, watching me as I prepared dinner. "I hope you don't mind having dinner with me tonight," I said, attempting to ease the tension. He raised his eyebrows and shrugged, still smiling. "Of course not. I've actually been missing this. It's been a while since we've had dinner together like this." I smiled back, trying to mask my jitters, and took a seat across from him. For a few moments, an easy silence enveloped us, not uncomfortable, but rather filled with an unspoken understanding as we both delved into our thoughts. "So, what's it been like living in Newport so far?" he asked, his interest piqued. "It's different," I replied hesitantly. "It's a small town, but it has its own charm. Living with you and your father has definitely been an interesting change." He laughed lightly, his gaze dropping to his plate as he picked at his food with his fork. "Yeah, my dad really deserves someone like you. You're wonderful for him, you know that, right?" "I know, and I'm happy to," I said, trying to sound sincere. "It's just that everything is so new, with so many changes. I think I'm still adjusting." He nodded, his expression softening, almost understanding. "I imagine it's not easy. But I want you to know that I'm here for you, for anything." As we continued to talk, I felt more at ease and the conversation flowed effortlessly. He shared his career aspirations, his passions, and even some disappointments he had faced recently, a side of him I hadn't yet seen. With each word, I felt a deeper connection forming between us. After dinner, we began cleaning the kitchen side by side. At one point, our arms brushed against each other, sending a spark of electricity coursing through my body. I looked at him in surprise, only to find him staring back at me with an intensity that took my breath away. For a moment, the world around us faded into oblivion, leaving just the two of us suspended in time. "Mary," he started, his voice low and almost a whisper, but before he could finish, the sound of the front door creaking open shadowed the moment. It was Tom, home at last. Instinctively, we both turned away as if caught in the act, even though nothing had happened. The tension lingered in the air, leaving me to wonder what the next moment would bring. Tom strolled into the kitchen, his familiar smile brightening the room, blissfully unaware of the palpable tension simmering between Ben and me. "Good evening, everyone. How was dinner?" Ben flashed a small smile, replying, "It was great, Dad. Mary made an incredible dinner." Tom leaned over and kissed me on the forehead, settling down at the table to enjoy our stories of the day. Meanwhile, Ben quietly retreated to his room. I stayed with Tom, chatting, but my mind drifted back to that charged moment we'd shared in the kitchen. After that night, I felt a shift in my relationship with Ben, subtle yet profound. He started seeking my company in everyday moments, and perhaps, without realizing it, I began doing the same. It was as if an invisible thread of understanding connected us, one that required no words. As the days turned into weeks, this bond only grew stronger. One afternoon, Tom decided to throw an event at the cafe to celebrate its anniversary. He loved marking milestones with friends, and this occasion promised to be memorable, drawing guests from across the city. I eagerly took on the organization, seeing it as a perfect opportunity to become more integrated into the community. When the celebration evening arrived, the cafe sparkled. Soft yellow lights created a cozy ambience, and tables were adorned with fresh flowers and delightful arrangements. Tom's friends trickled in, filling the space with laughter and vibrant conversation. I wore a light green dress, simple yet elegant, perfectly suited for the occasion. Halfway through the evening, while serving drinks and greeting guests, I caught sight of Ben watching me from a distance. He leaned against the window, glass in hand, offering me a restrained smile. Heat rushed to my cheeks as I quickly looked away, trying to focus on the lively crowd around me, yet his presence was magnetic, igniting feelings I struggled to comprehend. As the night wore on and most guests began to leave, Tom was engrossed in animated conversations with the last of his friends, leaving me busy tidying up in the kitchen. That's when Ben sauntered in, leaning against the doorframe with a playful grin. "What's up? Need some help?" he asked, feigning nonchalance, though a mischievous glint sparkled in his eyes. "I think so. Come help me, Angel," I replied, gesturing toward a stack of plates. As we organized the kitchen together, laughter bubbled between us, and the tension that had previously lingered began to dissolve. In these easy moments, we felt like two friends, yet I was acutely aware of the simmering chemistry that grew every time we were near. "This place looks amazing," he remarked, taking in the cafe's transformed look. "You really outdid yourself." "Thanks, Ben. I'm glad you liked it," I said, feeling my heart race under his gaze, which seemed to see right through to my core. He took a step closer, holding one of the plates I had set aside. "You're great at this, Mary, organizing things, dealing with people." "My dad is lucky to have you around," I smiled, trying to keep my composure. But my pulse quickened. "It's great to be here, to be part of it all." I paused, feeling the weight of the moment, and added, "And it's good to have you around too." Before I knew it, I leaned in and kissed him on the cheek. Ben looked down, his face flushed with shyness, and a profound silence enveloped us, brimming with unspoken meaning. In that instant, I realized how essential these shared moments had become to me, filling a space I hadn't even known was empty. But just as quickly as the moment had deepened, Tom's laughter rang out from the other side of the cafe, shattering our fragile bubble. Ben and I instinctively returned to our tasks, busying ourselves to appear immersed in our work. When Tom entered the kitchen, he radiated energy, still basking in the event's success. "You both were amazing today," he exclaimed, pulling us into a warm embrace. "I'm so happy to have you with me." Looking at Tom, I felt a pang in my heart, aware of how much he trusted me, how much he valued our relationship. With Ben by my side, those feelings became all the more complicated. On the days that followed, I returned to the comfort of our routine. Tom and I shared a stable, affectionate relationship, and I wanted to honor that. He was someone I could confide in, someone who genuinely cared for my well-being and cherished our time together. Gradually, I began to understand that my feelings for Ben shouldn't disrupt my life with Tom. I tried to focus on this realization, yet fate seemed intent on testing my resolve. One Sunday afternoon, Tom had to attend to some business matters, leaving me in charge of the cafe, a responsibility I welcomed. However, with Tom away, Ben's presence grew more intense. That evening, after closing the cafe, Ben invited me to watch a movie at home. As we settled onto the sofa, I felt an unexpected sense of comfort in his company, a mix of security intertwined with a desire I tried to suppress. During a particularly charged scene, our hands brushed against each other, sending an electric current through my body. I glanced at him and saw that he felt it too. We continued watching the film in silence, each lost in our own thoughts. Later that night, lying in bed, I reflected on my feelings. The relationship I had with Ben was a complex tangle of emotions and dilemmas. I knew I needed to tread carefully. He was vibrant, full of life, with a unique perspective that captivated me, but it also made me cautious. The spark between us was undeniable, but I understood that maintaining harmony in our makeshift family was paramount. It was a delicate balancing act, a path strewn with potential pitfalls. One evening, as we watched a movie together in the living room, the atmosphere felt unusually relaxed. Ben seemed more at ease than ever. I tried to concentrate on the screen, but I could feel his furtive glances, as if he had something important to say but hesitated. Finally, he mustered the courage to speak. "Mary, I'd like to give you a present. May I?" Surprise washed over me at his unexpected request. His voice held a softness that intrigued me. I looked at him, trying to gauge what he was thinking. Of course, you can, my love. What's the present? Ah, there's just one condition, he said, a hint of hesitation lacing his words. He looked away for a moment before locking eyes with me again. To earn the present, you have to close your eyes. And if you don't like it, do you promise not to tell my father? That last sentence sent my heart racing. He was hiding something, and the way he whispered it ignited my curiosity, while also sounding alarm bells in my mind. Something felt different, but my intrigue overpowered my caution. I took a deep breath and nodded, still unsure of what he had in mind. Okay, Ben, I promise I'll close my eyes. As I shut my eyes, I immediately sensed the atmosphere shift. The room felt quiet, and I could hear his breathing drawing closer, the warmth of his body enveloping me. I felt each second stretch out, waited with anticipation. And then, unexpectedly, I felt his lips touch mine. The kiss was firm and decisive, carrying an intensity I hadn't anticipated, as if he had been holding on to this moment for a long time, a silent, forbidden desire finally unleashed. For a brief moment, my body reacted before my mind could catch up, caught in a whirlwind of conflicting sensations that enveloped me entirely. My heart raced, a mix of surprise and adrenaline flooding through me. Ben, with a sure demeanor, approached me with an almost palpable vulnerability, as if he had just taken a daring leap into the unknown by making this move. I sensed he was aware of the risks, yet something primal within him urged him forward, an impulse he could no longer hold back. As he gradually pulled away, I felt the stark emptiness that separated us. I opened my eyes, trying to grasp the weight of what had just happened. Ben looked at me, anticipation flickering in his eyes, a blend of anxiety and hope. He was waiting for my response, his gaze searching mine as if trying to read my thoughts. I took a deep breath, my heart pounding, contemplating the gravity of my next words. There was an electric intensity in his gaze, a blend of curiosity and desire that tugged at something deep within me. I realized in that moment that nothing would ever be the same again. You can relax, Ben. I won't tell your father anything, I said, managing a slight smile to ease the tension thickening the air between us. But I need to confess something too. I'm just as intensely drawn to you. Without waiting for a response, I leaned in, kissing him as he had kissed me, savoring that singular moment where everything else faded away. The sensation washed over me like a tidal wave, engulfing me completely. In the dim glow of the living room, with the movie playing softly in the background, we surrendered to the moment, the sofa transforming into our sanctuary, a space where time felt suspended, where right and wrong blurred into insignificance. The exhilaration surged between us, an intense energy that entwined our souls in a way I had never known. Every touch, every whisper ignited a delightful rush within me. After that fateful night, everything shifted. Ben became a constant presence in my life, filling the void I hadn't realized existed. Whether we were sharing a simple conversation or exchanging lingering glances, there was always an unspoken spark between us, a current that felt essential to my existence. I began to see how deeply this relationship affected me. It was as if my life had taken on new dimensions, igniting a passion I never knew I needed. With every encounter, I felt the weight of excitement and the thrill of keeping our secret, a delicate balance of joy and responsibility that coursed through my veins. I cherished those moments with Ben, each one richer than the last, filling my heart with a warmth that made the world around me seem brighter. As days turned into weeks, our connection deepened, and I found myself caught in a fascinating web of emotion. The thrill of secrecy mixed with the comforting stability that Tom offered, creating a thrilling yet confusing duality in my life. I felt alive in a way I hadn't for years, but I also understood the stakes at hand. What we had was fragile, delicate, and utterly transformative. In the weeks that followed, every stolen glance, every brush of our hands, became part of our private dance, a rhythm only we could hear. I lost track of time and space, absorbed in the thrilling exploration of the secret life we were weaving together. Each encounter felt charged with an energy that defied explanation, an intoxicating mix of fear and exhilaration that made me question everything I thought I knew. But there were moments when the reality of my situation hit me, and I found myself wrestling with the weight of it all. I was living in two worlds, one safe and predictable with Tom, and the other thrilling and unpredictable with Ben. The contrast was both exhilarating and terrifying, yet it opened my eyes to new aspects of myself that had long been dormant, waiting for this very moment to awaken. Every choice I made felt like stepping onto a tightrope, trying to maintain balance between the thrilling chaos of my emotions and the comforting familiarity of my life with Tom. Each day was a new adventure, a chance to discover parts of myself I hadn't dared to explore before. I reveled in the excitement, the feeling of being alive, and I couldn't help but wonder where this journey would take me. As I navigated this delicate dance of secrecy and desire, I also understood the importance of being responsible with my choices. I was acutely aware that each decision could shape my future in ways I couldn't yet fathom. Yet, in the midst of this uncertainty, I chose to embrace the present, to savor every moment with Ben as if each one was a precious gift. Ultimately, this journey was about self-discovery, about learning to embrace the unknown and allowing myself to feel deeply. Every kiss, every touch was a new discovery, a piece of the puzzle that revealed the beautiful complexity of life. And while I didn't know what lay ahead, I was determined to keep moving forward, guided by the passion and excitement that filled my days. As I reflected on everything I had experienced, I knew I was inching closer to my true self, to the person I was meant to be. It was exhilarating and terrifying, but above all, it was undeniably real. This was my story, a tale of love, discovery, and the courage to embrace the unknown. And as I shared it with you, I invite you to reflect on your own journeys, to find the courage to explore the depths of your emotions, and to live fully in each moment. If you enjoyed this story, let me know in the comments, and don't forget to like and subscribe to keep up with all our daily adventures. See you tomorrow with another captivating tale.